and welcome back to yet another episode of the Gameable Audio, a VGM podcast. I am your host, Kristoffer Schenström, and the specific theme of today's episode is none other than the Cthulhu Reach Devil Reef special, together with the composer and also co-founder of the studio, Fransson. Hello!
Hello, Chris. Happy to be here.
It is so nice to have you here. As I talked a little bit quickly about in the last episode, I did meet you earlier in 2024 during Nordic Game Conference, and this was also the time and place where I got to know the game a little bit as I play tested it during this event. Mm-hmm. And it was so much fun to just get to know you a little bit and talk a little bit about the game at this point in time. And we had a little bit of a discussion back and forth to see if you wanted to join in, and of course you were interested in joining in to talk about it, but we haven't really found a time until now.
Yes, but who wouldn't like to talk about some video game music? I got so excited about the prospect. No, so thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It is an honor to have you here as well. Of course, I'm always happy to talk about like smaller studios and the music, and specifically in this case, the game and the audioscape you created for this game. I know from the point when we talked on Nordic Game, we talked a little bit about the bits and pieces of the music, but also the sound effects for this game. So I'm just gonna be super excited to jump down into this soundtrack and sound settings for this game as of this episode. But before we start jumping into everything, I think it's a way better start, as always, to think a little bit more about you as a composer. Where did you start from your journey within video game music and music in total? So would you care to start a little bit with your origin story here, Per?
Oh, are you sitting down?
Yes, I am.
Do you have some liquid? Well, my humble beginnings. Let's see. I grew up in the northern part of Sweden, so it's a little town called Storuman, and some might have heard about Storuman. Storuman kommun, the municipality of Storuman, is very proud to say that they have the most kind of Olympic medalists in all of Sweden, because Ingemar Stenmark, and we have Björn Ferry and Anja Persson, and those kind of names. But I'm not one of those. I am the kind of nerdy kid that was brought up in a little village outside of Storuman. So this is kind of not even in the small town. I'm like in the little village out in the forest with 3 houses, and you couldn't. I mean, you long winters. You try to have something fun to do. So what do? You play computer games and you play guitar. That's basically what I got into. So at an early age, I remember the Amiga very fond memories, and playing those old games. That's kind of. I remember my mom came home with that Amiga computer. I can't remember why, but it was some kind of. I think she was inspired by one of her friends who was very into computers and stuff, to get it to use things on it, but it ended up being just gaming consoles for me and my brother. But from there on, I remember it was a little music making program on the Amiga, which was very rudimentary, but I managed to put in some notes and made it sound, and it was kind of, interesting, you can do music here. And then I didn't touch it at all very much, but I remember, so that must have been one of the first sequencers I touched. No idea what it was called. But
in this point in time with a music program on an Amiga, can you draw a little bit more of a picture on it? What are we talking a little bit more about the tracker where you just put in numbers and sequences in that sense, or was it more drag and drop, like an EJ program like we can see today?
Yeah,
just to paint a picture for the listeners.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but I remember there were it wasn't like if you do tracking today, you usually will have this kind of sequencer. You don't visualize in notes per se, traditional notation. This was actually traditional notation, and I had no clue what they were meant. So there was this kind of standard palette. You chose a note, in the kind of note value, and then you clicked it in on the stem. And I wasn't that killed. I just plotted out stuff, like tried to but so that was very, very kind of, I just remember now when we talk about it, that must have been the first time I put some music into a computer.
Yeah.
But then after that, I remember my first lines of code. My first game I did was in QBasic, and it was a friend of mine who's called Marcus Persson. Not that Marcus Persson, but they share the same name. So I can say Marcus Persson taught me to program, but it's not Notch. It's he's called Ragovit. Shout out to Marcus Persson, Ragovit.
Yeah.
So he taught me how to do this kind of hello world stuff. Like, this is how you do a variable, so it can ask you for a name and it saves it. And so basically my first text adventure that was done on the youth center in Storuman after school when I was kind of in middle school.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was totally hooked. I was so hooked that I can give instructions to the computer and do a game. So the first game I did was it was called Selga, not with a Z, but SELGA, and it was, of course, kind of a ripoff on that, but it was actually a detective adventure. So it began with you stand outside a bank vault, and suddenly you hear explosion, boom, and then I did some ASCII art. So there was this door first, was the bank door, and then I managed to make a hole in it, so it flipped to the next, and I was so proud that I managed.
Yeah, you definitely should be. I mean, doing it at such an early age as well, and I mean, getting into QBasic, but also working on some sequencers, making music and so on. I mean, you start out quite early making the full picture yourself to some extent. And it to me, that's freaking magical.
The magic is probably the kind of how that really left kind of a mark. It left something. It has, I still love I can remember it's the same thrill about, I wonder if I could do this. And then I try something out and, not really there. Not really there, and I try again, and not really there, try again, and not there, and then you nail it. And that dopamine hit, that's just magical. So that kind of iterative, try to solve the problem kind of thing, it's very, I get it when I program very much, and I get it kind of also in music, the mixing, the producing part, very much so. I'm spending too much time on my youth. But basically what happened later is I've been all kind of listening to music and was dreaming about the electric guitar, and my dad really was into this rock artist called Jerry Williams, and I kind of did this called Småstjärnorna in Swedish. Like we had some what would you call it? It's a, you get on stage when you're in school and you're in middle school, and you kind of mime.
We had like a talent show with lip syncing.
Yes,
basically.
Exactly. A talent show with lip syncing. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Lost my words totally.
No worries. So I would say Småstjärnorna would be like the small version of Lip Sync Battle today. Like some people might know Lip Sync Battle today. That's spot on. And so that I remember I did a totally badass Jerry Williams thing there in middle school, and that left a mark as well. That I love to perform.
So from there, I began wishing for guitar. So I took some guitar lessons, and then they closed down the music school. So I did like one term, and then there wasn't no more of that. So I began with like the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star thing, and then they kind of I didn't get any further than that, and then they shut it down. So by 9th grade, I got an electric guitar from my dad by Christmas. And that was like, oh, I got an electric guitar. I don't know how to play it. I don't know who to ask. I don't know anyone. But I did actually. There was a guy who was 1 year younger than me, really badass on guitar at school. So I began to talk with him, and he kind of gave me some clues about, do you know what tabs are, like tablatures? No clue. And that was back in the day when we have a modem, like so you can go to an internet and you can find these and we looked it up, and I managed to figure out how you read them. He helped me out, and I kind of just began to go like, I nerded out totally, as I do, and learned to play guitar by looking up tabs for my favorite bands, like I was really into German power metal, like Gamma Ray and Edguy, and I was very into Hammerfall then. Hammerfall was my jam. So that was
a classic back in the day.
Exactly. So I learned all the coolest Hammerfall riffs. That's where I began. But then I actually did. So my music teacher saw that I was really working hard at learning this stuff, and me and a friend who he played drums. There was some kind of school project where we wrote a song. It was for the German class. So we did a song in German.
Oh, an original song then, I guess.
An original song was, yes.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of funsies with that one. I remember one line which was, Ich hatte einen Apfel aus Schilde und eine Murbe aus Schwert. Which I'm totally messing up the grammar, but it was I have an apple as a shield and a carrot as a sword.
Yeah,
we used our wits to try to make something cool, but actually it was just it was those kind of funny little things.
It kind of becomes smart but silly in the same sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Trying to be poetic, but it becomes a little bit of a comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is something you can hear a lot with death metal today, for example.
Yeah.
Sounds so evil, but they're still like cozy and fun.
Yeah. So it was, of course, this was kind of this fantasy metal riffs to this stuff. But we then she arranged, the music teacher, kind of, what's it called? Yes, we played a lunch concert was the. By lunch we had a concert outside of the dining hall. I was so nervous. I was so totally nervous. First time I was gonna play guitar.
And was it first time on scene as well for you?
At this point? I had done that, lip sync battle thing.
Okay. We're playing a live instrument then.
Yeah, of course. That's the first time.
Yeah.
So this is in 9th grade. And I stand there, and the whole school is there to listen. It's not a big school, but it's not a big corridor either. So it's like crazy many people there. So we play these 3 songs, and I'm so nervous, but I really kind of feel like get into it, and I kind of really get into it. I feel like it went kind of as well as could have gone with me being so nervous. And then after I play, I put away the guitar and I turn around, and there is a girl I had a crush on in my class, and she comes up to me and she says, "That was so awesome, Pat. You are awesome." And I was just blown away by that experience.
I'm guessing you feel like you're melting through the floor at that point in time.
I'm kind of melting through the floor. I probably didn't say anything but as an answer. I didn't remember, but that left such a deep mark. Like, so I'm very thankful. A shout out to Malin. Thank you, Malin, for doing that, because that left a mark. It left one of these kind of deep marks that I am valuable. I can do stuff. I actually can accomplish things. It had such a deep thing. So it gave me such a confidence boost that made
that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it changed my life. It sounds so. I mean, when you tell the story and you had to be there, kind of thing. But it really changed my life from that day, and it made me. It put me on this journey, on actually believing in myself and believing that I could do the things I really wanted to do, making music, being a musician. All of that stuff.
Yeah, so as I'm kind of understanding now, I mean, you've been working, you're kind of self-taught in guitar and everything together with this younger person. And every time as you were working on songs that you like, with the tabs you were struggling with and everything, you always had this kind of early on imposter syndrome that you can't really do anything, even if you can do it. And this was kind of the validation after this that you got, where you got the confidence boost you needed in order to make, like, yeah, I'm actually good and great at this.
Exactly. That hard work pays off. Like it was kind of that was the epiphany, kind of. Okay, this is actually, it's very, very valuable to me to be an artist, to do stuff. So that it kind of left that mark. So by then, as I told you, it was in 9th grade I got the guitar. So we had already chosen what to do for let's see, gymnasium in English. What is that?
It's kind of like high school in English terms, but for us, we usually use the English term for gymnasium as well.
Exactly. So let's say high school, gymnasium, where you choose your program for what you do.
Yeah, your speciality.
Yeah, my speciality, and so I chose the speciality that some of my best friends were going to because I didn't really know what to do. So it was becoming an electrician, or the electrician's program. And so I went there, and the only thing I did was play guitar all night. Playing guitar, I had beginning to use Cubase to make songs. So I remember sitting all nighters, figuring out how to record stuff, and just practicing guitar. And I had never skipped school a single minute all my kind of career, but now I overslept and just woke up by lunchtime because I hadn't slept, and I was just gonna sleep an hour and then I need to go to school. I was totally I was a maniac. I was like, this is so then there was this kind of crisis meeting with my parents, and my mother, she's so wise. She has realized that, hey, might it be that this isn't the thing you want to do? Like, maybe you want to do change to the music instead. And was like, yeah, please let me do that. Can I do that? And they were like starting that. Oh, we could fix it then if you then focus on the math and the English and the things that you would do there. You can do the first year again, but you only read the music stuff and the things that are kind of for the aesthetic program. So that's where I ended up.
Okay.
Then I got in with this hunger, just this awesome hunger that I just was like a sponge, putting everything in, and love to create music, love to perform, and all of that stuff. So from there, fast forward to the university in Piteå. I did a master's there with this is under Luleå University of Technology. They have the music kind of sub part, which is in Piteå. So there's where I studied for 5 years with a master's in music education. So of course it's stuff like arrangement and composing, and I did some audio engineering stuff. Not as much as I would have liked, but
it sounds a little bit like it covers a full spectrum in a sense.
Yeah, very much so. It touched a lot of kind of you get a high degree of expertise in these broad things, so like music theory and music pedagogy and methodology. Yeah, so that's what I ended up being a music teacher and been teaching for many years, but always dreaming of getting back to the games. So I've been playing in bands and always loved writing original music. So there are stuff you can find on my website. We can plug that later.
But yes, we will definitely plug that later.
Exactly.
But considering everything, I mean, you started quite early with Atari and making music on that one. So I'm guessing already from the get-go you had an idea that you wanted to make at some point a little bit more video game music specifically, or were you more interested in, due to the studies and everything, that you were interested in making original music on a real guitar, for example?
I am this kind of a trier person. I just try to. I love to test things out in all aspects. So I've been recording. I've been writing just for voice, or I've been writing for symphony, or writing for doing all in the box. I love the technology side of things. So. So doing the hybrid thing of doing some instruments and layering with live instruments is probably where I end up, because I can't play the violin, so I can at least program it, but it always sounds better with a live violin. So if I have a live violinist at hand, of course I want to collaborate with that person because it's going to sound better. But when they aren't there, I don't sit around and don't do it. I figure it out in some way that I want violin, and then I put it in. So I like to test things out in that regard. So yeah.
But moving on from university and so on, and then of course you were a musical teacher, etc. But moving on, is the game that you're working on today, is that the first game you're working on professionally in that sense, or have you done anything prior to that?
As a broad overview, I went on this entrepreneurial journey from the music teaching. I saw really a need for music teachers to have material, so I did create a company to make a platform, basically a website for music teachers with games and material to use, videos and stuff to use for their music teaching. So I made games there, and so the first commercial game kind of that I released was a project together with Specialpedagogiska skolmyndigheten, which was an iPad education game about the folk music, Swedish folk music.
Oh, interesting.
So it was called the Poco och Småfolket. But so that was the first kind of, that's where I really got my axe I slipade yxan.
You polished your axe.
I polished my axe. Let's go with that one. So to around kind of just everything regarding project management, programming, implementing audio, and because I had the production side and everything, but never kind of made a whole game. So that's why I went full on into it and released the first game. And during that, I met my now partner, Daniel Olofsson, which we just hit. You met Daniel, and we hit it off during a game jam here in town in Umeå, where I live now, and we saw that we had a great synergy because he comes from, in the same way as I come from the audio background, and into programming because I would love to see my audio and music stuff in games. So I need to make the game first if no one else does it. So I've come from that part, and he comes from the graphical part. He's the artist that had been illustrating and doing 3D graphics and wanted to see them move. So he learned to program to make a move and put them into games. And we had such a great synergy, and it was a match made in heaven kind of thing.
That is awesome.
So we really hit it off and thought that, hey, should we try to do a company together, do an indie studio? And let's try it. And we haven't looked back since, doing consultant work. So I've been doing implementation and music and sound design, and kind of I'm very much the technical audio designer. I do the whole pipeline, and doing that for others while we have been working on our own IPs, our original IPs. So been iterating, and finally we got traction with the Cthulhu's Reach. And so that's where we are now. It's we talked to we met our publisher at Malmö, where you and I met.
At Nordic Game then.
Yes. So shout out to First Break Labs. We love working with them, and so now we're able to put our full time into this project and bringing it to market in a big bad way. So I'm just
awesome,
very very happy.
Big congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
So that's amazing. No, because if I remember correctly, as I was searching out a little bit on the topic of this game and so on, if I remember correctly, I saw something about 2023. Was that the initial year where you started out with this, or you had something playable for the first time?
So it was released in April of 2024.
Yes, the 15th of April.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in 2023, Daniel began we were working on a totally different sci-fi project for far too long and never got it to fly. We pitched it to I counted it to 36 publishers, I think. And a lot of those were in-person meetings as well. So a lot of work, and never got anywhere with it. But suddenly Daniel had put time on the side at home to make this prototype of this isometric. He said like, I want to make sure that I make a small game that it could be released with or without a publisher. Let's make it as small as possible. What if I would make a Doom game, but it was isometric, like old style isometric, pixelated, because he's so good with pixels. If you look at the videos and stuff, you see what I mean. He's very good at what he does. A magician. So I just had it in my fingers and felt like, this is so much more fun than the game we've been working 4 years on. And you've been putting just the kind of evenings and weekends on making this. So he decided to bring it into the company, and we started to work on that instead. We put the other project on ice, which wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right decision.
Yeah.
And we just went on, and we looked at how can we make this. He is a Lovecraft fan, so he came with that idea, and we went into it and about what if we use one of Lovecraft's novels. And he was telling me about Shadow of Innsmouth, that novel of Lovecraft, so the very famous one. How there is mentioning about this devil reef where there seems to be hidden treasures. So what if you are in debt to a evil man who's a gangster, and you need to get free? You need to free yourself of that debt, and you hear about these outerworldly treasures hidden in the devil reef, and you go there and you crawl down and you find the horrors that are these kind of monsters from the Lovecraft world.
The classics.
Exactly. So that's basically the premise, and we just jammed on it and got instantly hyped about the whole project. And it seems like we got a lot of positive traction and has just gone forward from that. And we are very happy to see players are very engaged with the game, and we have a great community on our Discord. It's very awesome how people are very constructive with the feedback. We get we get a lot of praise, but they're not afraid to point out as well the things that are usually it's like, yes, you are right. Why haven't we done that earlier? Oh, because we are just two people.
Exactly, two people, and there's a lot of aspects always with game development.
Exactly.
So it is easy to be like retroactive on some things, like, oh yeah, we should have thought about this. It's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is so many things to keep in mind of all the time working on this.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, so regarding the soundtrack for the game, now this isn't one of those that I can retrospectively just tell you, well, this is what happened, this is the end result, because I'm in the midst of it. So not all tracks are written, they aren't mixed correctly, and when we dive into it, I just wanted to state that it's under development, and I'm gonna talk about things as of that.
And that's going to be super interesting as well. It's always fun to have an active album being worked on. And in this case, you are also a part of the studio. So you're really just in the midst of it. And of course, anything may be subject to change of everything we hear today.
Excellent.
So with that said, I mean, I think it's a great time to just start deep diving, since we already talked a little bit about the work of this game. But just to have this reiterated. So the game that we're going to talk about is Cthulhu's Reef, and it is developed by the Swedish studio named The Fine Arc. The game was released on early access last year on the 15th of April, like we stated. And Fine Arc is only a studio including of two people, you, Per, and Daniel. And the premise of the game, Cthulhu's Devil's Reef, and this is like the small summary that we find on Steam. It is a roguelite co-op dungeon crawler set in the Lovecraftian universe. You can play solo or up to 4 players. You travel down the depth and you find these golden riches while fighting the horrors of Devil Reef. And with that said, I think it's time to dive into the first track of the week, which is called Thinking About the Reef. There we have the first track of the week of Cthulhu's Devil Reef, and the track name was Thinking About the Reef, which is a menu theme for this game. And for people that are new to this podcast, for each and every track, I will have a little section called an emotion, and this is basically me putting on my headphones, turning off the light in my home, and I just lean back in my chair and just take in this track, and I will basically write down what I feel and what's emotion I get when I'm listening in on this. And my emotion for Thinking About the Reef, it is one of the longer ones, so bear with me on this one. In this track, we have this old radio-style soundscape, like we're listening in through a gramophone. The track is very simplistic, and it kind of has this old minimalistic jazz style to some sense and some extent. The guitar does remind me a little bit of the same style that we have in the game Neverhood, which is a point-and-click claymation type of game. And it has this kind of bluegrass style as well, but some style there, bluegrass jazz. The notes are a little bit shorter and kind of ends abruptly, and I guess this is the reason why I feel like it's such a minimalistic style. The sound inside the game, it does also come with the first cinematic that we get in this game, and during this cinematic we're also getting this monologue happening, and while this track is played. And the monologue is a man, he's writing his own diary or journal, and it is about his own desperation and what drives him to this cursed treasure of Devil's Reef. But in the end, I mean, overall with this, I really like the simplicity of it, and I really like this kind of overhanging gramophone style on it. So, with that said, Per, could you give us a little bit of a thought process when you started this track? It is the menu of the game.
Yeah, it didn't start out that way, because you never start with the menu music, but this was the first track I wrote, because we basically, why it came was like, where it came to making this was we need to do a trailer, okay? So what should it be? I don't know. Let's see. And then we begin to kind of playing ping pong about the ideas, and we ended up with this idea of our protagonist Benjamin, who is writing in his diary about his situation, as you said, and I really this plays out in the 1920s, so of course I wanted to make sure that so the setting needs to really hone in on let's just go back in time, let's make us feel really like we are back in the 1920s. So my mind went to, of course, the gramophone. Like what if he sits there and he reads out basically what he's writing, and we hear the music coming from a gramophone, and then it ended up like when I did the voiceover, I felt straight ahead like, this needs to be within the gramophone as well. So I kind of put this little pitch wavy thing on my voice and just pitched it up a little, and I tried to speak. I listened to all these kind of radio things from early 90s, that era.
So you took some inspiration in that sense.
Yeah, definitely, and made sure that I tried to nail something that felt as authentic as I managed to make it.
Yeah.
So that's how it came about, like for that cinematic reveal trailer, and then it got reused basically for the menu. I was like, what if we try to put this in the menu to just have some initial music in it, and
it's like the calm before the storm, kind of.
Yeah, kind of that. So to just set ourselves up for having some character. You really want to think about the character, and I love to think about how do we create contrast. And I knew that we weren't going with these gramophone all the way. Like, this is gonna be just here. So let's begin in the menu with that, and then we go a bit more high fidelity after that.
I kind of like how it becomes like an ambience to the cinematic itself. Like, it is this person, Benjamin, sitting in his room writing his journal or diary, and he's just listening to this music in the background. That's kind of how it is conveyed when you're taking in the full experience of this.
That is exactly the intent. Like, he has he has a gramophone playing beside him, or that is playing, and he's maybe recording himself on it, or game logic. But it just you should definitely get that feeling, hopefully. And I'm happy to hear that you felt that way. Then we managed to fool you into that, at least.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one interesting part always about this the podcast and this section of me having the emotion is, like, did you hit the mark of what you wanted the listener to interpret, etc.? For this case, I did get a code, so I were able to play this game, and I always like to get a good vibe of how the music is also implemented, because of course I did play the game also during Nordic Game, but it's so much harder listening while I was talking to you guys, but at the same time playing the game and having all these kind of people moving around and talking everywhere anyway. So it's kind of hard to get a good grasp of how the music is really implemented. But there are some bits and pieces that we're going to talk about in this episode where I did notice some things. And I really like those things.
Interesting.
But considering that, yeah, it is. But considering that and looking at the first menu theme here, you said this was one of the first tracks that you started working on. Was it due to the fact of you didn't have any music at all previous to that because you were working on the game and you needed a trailer? Or in which kind of order did it kind of pop into the work process for you guys?
Yeah, so it was... basically, we needed some music for the theme, for the trailer. This reveal trailer about the game, so we could launch the Steam page and begin to collect our wish lists and market the game. And I love to work with themes. So what I mean with that if I do a theme, I want to make sure that this is a thread that we weave in, and this is something that will, if you listen closely, you will notice that in almost every track, this theme that is present here is coming back in permutations throughout the whole soundtrack. So that's something I hope people notice. So the melody here, which is then in a very jazzy way, you then if you watch the trailer, it transitions to this metal variant, which is the same music that is between levels, because we wanted that Doom feel, like when you end a level, you have this kind of heavy thing, like, oh yeah, I made it. So that was kind of what I had in my head then. Okay, what about talk about contrast? I love to make contrast to really... I know I want to make homage or kind of set you into this 1920s feel. So let's do some jazzy stuff. I know I've cheated a lot here with the jazz, because the kind of jazz I wrote here isn't. So this is a scoop for you, that this isn't true 1920s jazz. That was more big bandy stuff, and like I wanted this kind of, as you said, minimalistic feel. And it to feel kind of a bit of, kind of almost airy in some kind of way. Trying to sound happy, but it's actually not happy. And then it transitions into the metal variant of the theme. So that's so if you watch the first cinematic trailer, you hear how that's basically how I wrote it in one piece. And then I chopped it out, so I used the first half in the menus, and I used the second half between the levels.
Oh.
And it's the same melodic theme, which is Devil Reef's theme.
Yeah. No, I like it because it has this kind of, like you said, the eeriness over it, but at the same time it does remind me of like the darkness like you had in the first BioShock game, for example, and even some Fallout games, you have that kind of sense as well of old,
exactly,
like that broken music to some extent. Okay, so working with contrast, you've been throwing that word a little bit. I want to know a little bit more about the contrast process here as well, because in this game it is this kind of a, and I quote, hack and slash Doom kind of vibe to it. There's a lot of enemies. It's not that type of horror game where you will have one enemy that is dangerous and haunting you all the time. You will have a lot of enemies coming to try and take your life in this game. So the contrast here on the music, how is it on par with the contrast on this one? So
your question would be around how do I work with the music regarding that this is very actiony, it's very much,
exactly,
much kind of... I learned this new term that someone said, this is very pulp Lovecraftian. And I was like, what? Pulp? Okay, so what's pulp? And basically, I learned that if you would do something that was very true to the Lovecraftian universe, we would have made this kind of game like the Call of Cthulhu game, or like very, as you said, more horror type of game where you are actually very human, and the stuff that are dangerous is gonna definitely kill you and you need to run away. But what we are doing is when you bring the protagonist up to a comparable level to the monstrosities, so you are actually able to beat them with your own kind of superish powers, because you have the level, you have the incantations which make you stronger, and you have powerful weapons. So that is what's called pulp, when you kind of bring yourself up to actually compete with with those monstrosities.
When you kind of become the superhero of a Lovecraftian world.
Exactly, very much so, like so. Otherwise, so the basic idea is, you probably will hear it throughout, that the pillars of the music is Jazzy Diablo goes into hellish doom. So the contrast is probably most noticed between that when you are out on the dungeon crawling part of the game, you will feel very much like, I feel Diablo vibes. And then you get to the boss battle, and this feels very Doom. So it comes from the inspirations Daniel had, the vision he had for the game, that let's make isometric Doom, but with a bit more, the pacing gets into Diablo territory, and just the feedback we've had is that it feels very Diablo-esque, and I really like Matt Ullman, who doesn't, and the Diablo 2 soundtrack. So it borrows a lot of the dynamic feel of the Diablo 2 soundtrack, and then we get into heavier stuff later on, but we're gonna listen to that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have this dynamic music system, which we can talk about later.
Yeah. Another question that I just thought of, that there's a lot of inspiration here, especially from other games and so on. Do you have any inspiration for this game when working on the soundtrack so far that was kind of a curveball in some extent, that you didn't really think of in the beginning? And let's say like, Donkey Kong with its vibrant, super happy-go-lucky inspiration. Like, do you have any sort of game or band that was an inspiration for working with a track or like a reference to the soundtrack?
Well, it's kind of cheap in that way. Like I just, so when I want to get in the mood of making the level ambience tracks, when you do kind of the dungeon crawling stuff, I put on the Diablo 2 soundtrack. And any track from that, and I just put that on, and that gets me into the vibe of the eeriness, and I, as I say, I try to make jazzy Diablo in that regard, so it's gonna feel very much like so. And
is it hard to make jazzy Diablo though?
Well, sometimes it has proven kind of, it challenged me. It has challenged me in a lot of ways, because I think it's very easy to just get into the copy stuff land, and that's something I could easily do. Just like, okay, this sound, I'm gonna do that sound. Oh, that sound. But what you want to make sure is you have your unique palette. So creating that palette, so it's original, but you find that kind of right balance between having that jazzy feel, and as I said, the thing about, well, I don't have a jazz quartet in my bedroom where I record stuff, so I have to invent doing so. When the trumpet sample isn't up to par, I need to make my own kind of freshen it up, finding ways to automate it and make it a lot more alive and stuff like that. So that is probably the hardest part. And is in retrospect, why didn't I just find any good trumpist and have them lay down the recordings? So that's what I'm looking at in the future, to have more live musicians involved.
Okay.
If time allows. So that's going to be
Of course. It's always time and money, of course.
Exactly.
In the end. But it's always so interesting working with games and music today. Everything is so accessible as well. I mean, today we can get somebody who plays a trumpet all over the world thanks to services out there. And it's just insane. Or do you want to be more local and just contact the other like educational parts? It's like, hey, do you have any trumpets that would like to audition and make some real thing for a game and get some payment out of it in some shape or form, etc. There's so many different ways you can attack a problem today.
Definitely. And it would be quite easy for me with my contacts to talk to some local good trumpets, but I am very inspired by Austin Wintory, how he the composer of Journey and stuff, for you who are not familiar. He is very good at finding collaboration with kind of these YouTube instrumentalists, YouTube influencers who do instruments and stuff. So I've been very inspired by that. Like that would be interesting to find these people that is very good at what they do. And yeah, to be frank, if they have some reach, that would be an amazing opportunity to like incorporate them, and they could show their audience, and we have a platform for showing our game to a whole different audience which we hadn't reached otherwise. Exactly. Like that's the kind of thing. It would kind of be a win-win as well. I mean, for you to get a reach, but for them to actually work on a game as well. Exactly. That they most likely would enjoy. Yeah. So I always want to. It has to be a win-win in either way. So I would never imagine. You always want to collaborate with someone that is excited about game music and wanted to be in this kind of soundtrack. So, but it would be very fun. So, if there is anyone out there who wants to hit me up if you're interested to add some real life to one of these tracks coming up in the future. Awesome. And of course, we're going to do a new shout out by the end of the show as well. So people don't need to write everything down at the moment. And we're moving on in time. And I think it's time to listen to the next track of the week. What do you feel about that? Let's go. So the next track that we're going to listen to, instead of thinking about the reef, we're going to be watching it. Because the track name of this is Watching the Reef, which is the beach ambience. Watching the Reef, the beach ambience. And my emotion for this track is, and the funniest thing is, we already talked about this in some extent. So, this track gives me two sort of reminders. First one is like an early Western style, while the other one kind of reminds me of the town of Tristram from the Diablo series. The simplicity of the strings, but they do become very impactful. Like the classic quote, less is more. The track only gives this easier horror or thriller kind of vibe, but it does it in a minimalistic style of way. And this is why I like this track so much. It's not like the fondest, like, oh, this has a huge impact on how the melody is and so on. No, the simplicity of this one is what makes it great. And just to paint a little bit of a picture here, this is the beach ambience, and beach ambience might not say a lot to people listening in on this podcast, but
In the beginning, you're having this little bit of a beach episode where you can walk around on a little beach. You can roll, you can jump, you can hit things, and there's a little bit of a fisherman hut there that you can walk in and you can check the upgrades that you have, etc. You can put on the arsenal, the weapons that you can unlock in this game as well. But you can also look at these incantations that you can get over time within the game by playing and unlocking new things. So that's kind of where it's at. And Pat, I thought it was so much fun that we already talked so much about Jazzy Diablo, and one of my emotions were already at Diablo set 1. So I guess we already checked that box on our bingo tablet here.
It was kind of a bingo moment there for you. You're totally you're on it, Chris. No,
yep.
I already talked so much about that. That was exactly kind of okay. I want to have that. I want to have that Tristram. Some kind of a Tristram-esque feel, but how do we do that? How is that in the jazzy Diablo style? So how this came about was I have kids, and the youngest of them are twins, 5 years old. So by this time they were 4. But each night when I put them to bed, we read a book, and then I usually pick up my guitar and play guitar until they fall asleep. So what I did was I took my acoustic guitar and knew that I need to find something for this beach theme. What should it be? And I tried a million things, and while putting them to sleep. So each evening I put up the guitar and I played and I played and I played. And I spoke about how I love reusing themes and to have but I forgot to do that in the beginning. So I was trying all these, the Tristram theme is basically built around these chords. The in the beginning, the classic round, 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 round. I tried stuff to kind of mimic that, and it was too mimicky. I was too close. It was like, it sounds so much like I'm trying to do Tristram. It's too kind of just copying, and I was never satisfied. And I tried a lot of approaches, but then one night I got this feeling. I remembered that, hey, why haven't I tried just reusing the theme and do that in a kind of unique way with the acoustic guitar, and what could I do with that? If it was kind of, and I ended up with this kind of a bluesy feel more. It's so the melancholy becomes very, very real in that regard.
It does. It feels like you're having some sort of sorrow in this overhanging everything. Some sort of a longing to some extent. I mean, longing of the gold that you're about to get and the depth you're about to get rid of.
Yeah. We talked about the intro and how it's it really puts you in this place. Like I probably shouldn't go. But I have to. I kind of that kind of desperation. That is the word.
Yeah.
You should feel that desperation and fear, and I tried to get that out of the guitar. One little kind of anecdote is that I will never be able to recreate that guitar sound 100%, because my guitar, which I used on that, one night when I put it up and took it out of the case, it had actually broken on the back, so the backside just had opened up and had a big hole along the edge. And so if you listen closely to it, you think like I have been doing some sound design in it to make this kind of creaky sound, but that's actually my guitar that is broken. So when I sit and play, it does this creaky sound. So I have since then I have had it repaired. So I will never be able to. So about that I think that adds kind of character in a way.
It does. It's kind of like the C64 with the ship that was malfunctioning and gave that unique sound.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like it adds something that's extra spice.
Exactly. But I have one question that I definitely need to ask, because it kind of points out the blue elephant in the room here. Like, why Tristram though?
I guess I just love the Tristram theme. Who doesn't? I mean,
I know, I love it. I mean, I wouldn't say anything else. I will just be lying if I did.
Yeah,
because I love it as well. It's so iconic, following through the Diablo series and so on. And already from the start, when you started out in Tristram with Diablo 1 and you had those chords just going in, and you just stood there and everything was kind of serene to some extent, and it really made this huge impact.
Yeah, and the answer is contrast. Like we just came from both our mouths at the same time, basically, me and Daniel. Like, we really want to have that when you then return, if you fail your run and you get back to the beginning, that should feel like when you get back to Tristram. Like that serene, like that, like you've been. If we talk about tension and release, this should be more of a release feel in the soundtrack than because you have been under tension while you're in the dangerous dungeons. So that's basically what is. Because for me, the composition, my job as a composer, is to tell the story, to put you in the state of your feelings, is what we are manipulating basically with the music.
Yes, definitely.
So that's all this is. What is the kind of state that I'm nudging you towards? And that is more like, okay, now we're back here. I feel safe. Kind of, but I need to go back there. So that is the feeling I'm going for, and let's see if people feel that.
Yeah, but also one thing, we're talking about contrast and so on, and especially having this contrast of returning from the hell the Devil Reef is, and of course there's a lot of different kind of tracks and how they sound. I just want to point that out when you're playing these games. Is there any like specific moment you usually wanted or intended the players to get to and return to this track again? I'm just thinking, like, is there a intention that players are supposed to get to boss battles and usually return from the boss battles back to the beach again? Well,
the action roguelike, if you want to see a masterclass in how to do action roguelike, you need to play Hades by Supergiant Games. It's probably, if you're into those kind of games, you played Hades, and you know that that kind of the dying part is part of the game. So with that as when we know that we're making that kind of game, we need to make this dying and returning and start over needs to be kind of joyful in some part. You need to appreciate it in some kind of way. So I hope that this adds a bit to that feeling, like, now we're back here. Oh, I like this cozy feeling of this part, because it's so I can breathe for a moment and get into that state and appreciate that in some kind of way. So I guess that is what I try to design with the whole soundtrack, that we get deeper and deeper into hell, and the music gives you that feeling as well, that it's more and more tension as
it kind of escalates over time.
It escalates, and then when you start over, the music communicates that now you're safe, for at least for now.
But only for now. No, I really like that answer, to be honest. It is always so much fun to kind of do twists and turns with the questions themselves in order to just hear the thought processes as well. So sometimes it might be confusing in the questions I might tell, but I'm always after those answers. And that's what's the beauty of this as well. I mean,
Definitely.
So with this game, we don't have any track specifically for the first act of the game. We have music for the second part of the game, the Act 2. And before we're diving into the next track, I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit more about the intention of what you're supposed to feel when you're in this normal dungeon before you get to a boss battle, because those are a little bit more of an ambience as well. While, in my opinion, listening to the main menu and the beach ambience, it feels like a state of mind. It's like this is how you feel in your mind to what you're experiencing. But the music that we have for the ambience for the levels feels more like ambience actual for the places you're in. Is that some structure and concrete evidence of that I'm thinking in the right way now, or?
Yes, I would say that's totally correct, because each act has its own biome, and those we want to have the feeling of falling rocks when there are falling rocks in nearby, and you want to have the feeling of magma flowing and bubbling when you are close to magma and lava. So that's parts that are incorporated into the music when you listen to it. So we'll have some examples.
Is there a specific reason why you implement it into the music rather than having it as a sound design for the game?
The easy answer there is that we are an indie studio and we need to find clever ways to have our time very efficiently used. So, yes. but it's very resource efficient that we can make. We can what is the heavy loads that the music can carry, which we don't need to put on the sound design then. So if we could have a baseline for how to have the environment be communicated in the music as well. Yeah. Of course, we want to, in the long run, there's gonna be more ambient sounds. So when you get closer to stuff, you're gonna be hearing more of that. And so the thing about programming more than you have time for, the sound and the music always get the last kind of little bit of my time. So I struggle so much with, like, I want to put so much more quality effort into the music and the audio, so it doesn't get the love that it deserves, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But I try to make every minute count when I get to do those things, and it's making a game is very complex, and it has a lot. We have to do very, very, very harsh prioritization around what is most important right now. And usually it comes down to that a game without gameplay can sound and look however good, but it's not gonna be a good game. So we always need to prioritize the gameplay. So then I need to do my best to keep up then with the time that is allotted to me with the music and audio. So it's when there are hiccups, which there are within all the sounds and the music, those are things that I probably heard and is crying myself to sleep each night because I haven't had time to fix them. No, but yeah. But it's an early access game. We do iterate on these things, so it's a. I'm adding. I get time sometimes to add in the stuff that I hadn't gotten time to add. So it's we have a process for how we try to get up to par with that when we get the gameplay first in there.
Exactly. Now, there's a lot of things to always kind of talk and convey around game development as well. But before we might go into more of those things, I think it's so much better to state the next track now. It is time to buckle up a little bit. So everybody should put on their seatbelts because we're going down with a boss theme now, and we already given some bits and pieces on what to expect on these. So the track that we're going to listen to is the boss theme for the first one, and it is called The Watcher's Gaze. Watcher's Gaze, boss battle number 1 in this game. And my emotion for this one, very nostalgic Doom style vibe. I think everybody can agree on that one. It is heavy. It really has these like light tones accompanied by these really heavy bass. And the track itself doesn't really offer too much. It's a little bit on the repetitive side, I would say. But that doesn't mean that the track itself is bad in any way. Quite the opposite. It focuses on what's important, and during this boss battle, the track really is on point. What do you say about that, Per? And you're telling me, it's like, yeah, I was struggling heck with this one.
Yeah. as I was talking, like, I wanted to create the contrasts about the dungeon crawling should feel very much like, hey, this feels like when I played Diablo when I was a kid, or like you know, back in the Diablo 2 days, that I get this same feelings around that. And then I want to have the boss battles to feel like, hey, now get the kind of doomy nostalgia. But I just felt like to have the really big contrast, like to do more Mick Gordon than doing, you know, the old original Doom stuff, like would be more kind of what would be the, you know, more Metallica thrash metal stuff. And basically it was a, I have always dreamt of having an 8-string guitar, and my girlfriend wouldn't let me have one, so I sold one guitar to get the 8-string. But actually what I did first, because I didn't have an 8-string guitar, was that I have a guitar which I have detuned now down to a baritone drop B, basically. So not baritone, but it's a drop B tuning. So you tune it down so the lowest string is a B as on a 7th string, and that wasn't low enough because the 8th string would get down to an F sharp, and this is even lower. So for people that are, for example, I'm not in tune with musical terms to the fullest, of course, talking to everybody, but going down would be going up in alphabetical order, so an F is lower than an B. Yes, so down as in we're going lower in notes, so we're getting deeper, closer to the bass. Exactly. So you want to get down to those really heavy notes. So what I did was I just figured out that, hey, I'm not the first one to do this, but that I recorded the guitar, had the unprocessed signal recorded, and then I reamped. That's a technique where you use that signal and put it back into the amp, the amp simulator as I used, and I pitched it down to get it down to the notes I needed. So I played them higher up, and then I digitally put them down and reamped it and re-recorded them. So, but it didn't feel really as good as I wanted to. So I actually bought the 8-string and and recorded with that. And I didn't really was too happy with the mics then. So
one after the other, it sounds like.
Exactly. So what it ended up becoming was it's one guitar to the left, which is that down-tuned guitar, and the guitar to the right is the new 8th-string guitar, because before getting my Lundgren mics, which is much better mics, which I'm using now. It didn't have that kind of bite. The transients wasn't there, and for some reason I got better transients on that detuned thing I did. I probably did some processing the dynamics to make it happen, but it ended up being this kind of unique thing, and I think it comes through as more of a kind of a raw sound, that it actually has some wobbliness to it, some kind of thing in the background, which is good for the track. I think it's not as clean as.
Yeah, I've started using this sentence where I said it's kind of the perfection in the imperfection, and I kind of like that one.
Yeah, that is very much like the imperfection is shining through.
Yeah, and this is why I kind of like, a lot of people were talking a little bit about this with having a digital, when you have samples and so on you can work with. It's like it sounds good every time because it doesn't really have this like human input of imperfection to it. And this is why I kind of like this kind of take with this sentence, because when you're live recording something, you have the imperfection in it, and this is why we kind of like it better to some extent.
Definitely. We are pattern recognition machines as humans. So we are very fast to hear when we get into the uncanny valley thing about like, hey, this sounds a bit too good to be actually human played. I think it's now with all the AI generated the art and music. If you listen to some tracks, or you look at some images, you think it's so impressive. It's like a human have done them, but then you begin to see the pattern, how they all have something in common. Like there is something that is a bit off, that kind of uncanny valley thing, and
exactly.
So that's why it's probably it feels more natural when you got those little imperfections that actually make it that doesn't exist anywhere else. That is actually this was played once and it's never gonna happen again.
Yeah, interesting. Now, one thing I also like with now that we listen on the boss theme as well, it kind of portrays a little bit about the width of the soundtrack as well. We have these more down-to-earth, easier, simplistic, minimalistic tracks, but we also have this full frontal attack mode tracks as well. And this one isn't really a contrast. This is more of a... what is it called? Words. I totally forgot. It's not a contrast. It's
maybe back to the roots.
No, I would like when it's not really complementing it. It's kind of on par. It's going side by side with the experience. Like you have this boss battle, and you're having the track kind of emphasize what the boss battle is. You have the same kind of BPM on the track that you have playing this. So if I just lower the volume and don't listen to this track, I will have that BPM in my heart of being stressed with everything going on, and then you just put in that music again, and I was like, yeah, it's exactly what I'm feeling at the moment.
Yeah, very much.
Because with a contrast, you have the contrast of it's like you have a high BPM, but like if you would have the beach theme on a boss battle, you will try to get the BPM down by having that contrast in your ear of the audio.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the I think it's very important that thing about how the BPM, the tempo of the track is gonna really one of the major kind of variables that we need to nail, because if you get that wrong, everything probably would just feel like, hey, it's not syncing up with what's actually happening on the screen. And when I think about a boss track, and we need to make sure that it is kind of stomping its feet together with the boss. Kind of that image is what's kind of I get in front of me.
Ah, okay. But when you're starting to work on a track today, I mean, the game is early access, so it does have a following and people that helps out with feedback and so on, with updates that popping in and so on. So when you're making a track today, is it still just you making a track for yourself, or do you implement Daniel's feedback on it? Or do you have even family? Is your girlfriend giving feedback on the tracks before releasing them?
The first thing I do is probably that my kids come in and listen. So for this track, for example, one of my smallest ones, which I mentioned, he's 5 years old, Colin, he really loved the melody, so he began singing it, and he still sings it sometimes. Because he really said, "Daddy, could you please put on that song you made?" And then he wants me to put it on and listen to it, and he likes to role play as a cat. So usually he becomes a cat and he sings the song as a cat. No, but awesome. so I mean, if they get kind of excited about it, in the end, I envision this to be something that the songs should be catchy. Good. They should be good. They should have this catchy. The boss songs should have this catchiness somewhere where you could kind of, it could get stuck there, and you could really like, you know, like the Mega Man themes or something like that. You know, where you can hear it playing in your head, and it's cool when you just walking down the street, like. But trying to catch some of that, and so if they respond well to it, that's a thermometer for me to actually know that I'm getting there. Otherwise, it's definitely Daniel, which is the one I answer to. He's the vision holder of the game, so I always want to. I put myself kind of so if this. When I do consult and do this for anyone else, the most important thing is that I deliver this, that I make sure that we are just enhancing the storytelling and the experience, the intended experience of the game. So this isn't any different. So in this regard, it's Daniel that is the visionaire. So it's his vision.
The customer, in some extent.
In some extent, the customer. So that's why I make sure that I'm gonna always have the veto about how, if this is a go or no go. So that's definitely one of the biggest. Otherwise, I think I have maybe some friends that I send to. In the later stages to get some feedback on the mix stuff, and like if there's something I should address. But usually it's between me and Daniel, we kind of chisel out the feel we're going after. So there are a lot of examples where Daniel has honed in on something that is missing, and he comes with a suggestion which makes me go, "You're right. Let's try that."
Yeah.
And then I
that is awesome.
So.
And considering that you're letting your kids listen in on this as well, everybody knows that kids can be brutally honest. Have you ever had any sort of honesty from the kids so far?
They're too nice.
Too often?
I would actually hope. I guess it's if they don't. Usually they are not they're just not interested, or I guess usually when I work with headphones just to be nice to the family. And when I then put it out into the speakers and they listen in, and I see them not kind of stay in the room or something like that, I guess I read that as I need to find a way to catch him. I didn't caught him this time.
You read their body language. Then.
Exactly. I didn't catch him this time. Next time I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
Let's get to work. I guess that's to the extent.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love this when you can utilize family to that extent, because like you're pointing out here, it's like you're having the headphones in order to save the family a bit, because I have understood that on a composer part you can listen to the same little 4 chords for hours just to get something perfected.
Definitely. That is happening far too often.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, like, when it comes to composers and artists, you're kind of psychotic in your own way.
Definitely. You need to be a maniac.
Yeah.
Be a bit crazy.
Yeah, but it is so beautiful in the end, because you're creating these amazing tracks that everybody who plays the games get to listen to, and
oh gosh,
not just
you're making me blush.
Enjoy them as a not just enjoying them as a track themselves, but enjoying them as an experience, because music is an experience in the end, especially in the interactiveness of a game, because they do so much, and that is like the biggest like point out I have with this podcast, is pointing out these things.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate them. I only see the flaws.
Of course you do. You want to grow and become better and better. You need to find the flaws in order to, like, stop those weaknesses in yourself, right?
Exactly. I'm just hoping I'm getting close enough.
Yeah. I mean, every time you do a chord or make a track, you grow to become better. Either you find something through the players themselves saying something, or you find something through feedback, or you're growing yourself, understanding composition more over the course of time. Just because you have this education and so on doesn't really mean you're the world's best at it. The journey of education and development will go throughout the whole life, so...
Definitely.
Sometimes we do hits and misses as well, and that's just part of life.
Education means nothing. Experience means everything when it comes to making music, is my experience at least.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth in that. That's kind of how I understood it as well, from my own parts and how I've worked throughout my life, and also from what I've heard from people in this.
I was a bit edgy there. Maybe education doesn't mean it is nothing. That doesn't make you...
It helps.
Definitely helped, but it isn't what's going to make or break. If you actually getting to making stuff that actually kind of is enjoyable for people to consume.
And we talk a lot about in this kind of business, we talk a lot about the passion as well. And passion can also become some sort of educational part in the end as well. It's not going to be like a diploma or anything, but I mean, you will notice somebody who is very passionate and they're really taking it to heart of what they're doing. You will definitely know that over the course of time.
It shows.
But over the course of time, there's a lot of things happening in game development. And if I remember correctly now, if I read through the news correctly, it wasn't too long ago you released the second act of the game.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't that many. I'm trying to figure out now when this is going to be out, this episode, but it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago, depending on when this releases.
So in December, then around December.
I think it was November
2024. November. Okay.
I think it was November 24. But yeah, so that's when the second act got released in its full. We had a first iteration, which was the biome, but basically the same enemies as just a bit more of them and a bit harsher environment. And we made sure that we got an ending to Act 2 and added the second boss.
Great. But before we go too deep into this one, let's listen to the track of the ambience for Act 2. So this is like the dungeon track, so we get a little bit more of an ambience understanding of what we can expect when walking around finding these riches. So the track that we're going to listen to is From Waves into Ashes. And we're fading out from Waves into Ashes, the Act 2 Ambience. And yeah, we're cutting this one short, definitely, because this track is over 6 minutes long originally. And that also conveys a little bit also my emotion here is gonna be more on the general part, because when I was just sitting down on this, I didn't really pay attention to how long this track was initially. So I just put it on and just leaned myself backward and started enjoying it. I was like, Am I done with the track yet? I was like, no, I'm just like 2 minutes in. All the time I was waking up, trying to figure out, am I done with the track yet or not? Anyway, my emotion for From Waves into Ashes. The ambience of a lab or a swamp? Yeah, I don't know. But the track comes with this eeriness to it. An eeriness of the unknown, as it seemed empty, yet vibrant. The biggest part in this track is the string instruments. And I'm just wondering here, this is like a quick question here. Is there some sort of cello or cello I'm hearing here? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a one of those composite samples. That is a collection of string instruments that is playing together, basically. That is true, and I made sure that the cello was more prominent. And what I was aiming at is, if you listen to the Matt Ullman soundtracks, he used a very distinct strings sample from the sample keyboard he used on the Diablo and Warcraft soundtracks, and I wanted to have a little homage. I kind of made the sound a bit more that you would get kind of that feel from it. Yeah, so as you can hear, it's more of a symphonic. We blend the jazziness into a bit more symphonic notes, because that is something that feels very fitting for the 1920s as well, to actually have some symphonic instruments blending together with the more jazzy elements.
Okay. That is something I didn't know, but most likely is somewhere in the back of my head when listening to a track, but nothing I really knew about. So that was a nice tidbit. But overall, with this track, it really gave me the creeps, to be honest. But as I see it in front of me, if I'm going to paint a picture here on this track, on how it gives me this kind of creeps, I see it like a celebratory dance, but it's not any type of dance. This is a dance with ghosts that I see in front of me.
I like that.
I myself, I did reach like the second part. I did beat the first boss on this. I never reached the second boss, however, but I did get a little bit of a glimpse of the second biome, at least, in this. Of course, it's not really lab or a swamp to that sense. But I kind of like the soundscapes that's going on in this ambience. So what's the thought process on this one?
Well, it's this is a track where basically all the themes that is currently in the game make a little appearance in different parts. If you listen to the initial melodic part, which is this muted trumpet, it is a permutation of the Devil Reef theme, which we have been reusing in the beach theme, in the menu theme, in the between the levels, and how that kind of have another skin here. And then there comes another part which is using the theme, which is which you will hear later on when you reach the second boss. And you also have variant of the Watcher's Gaze theme. Within. So it's kind of we're weaving in all these kind of, it's echoes of what you have heard before, and it's in a new package, and we hint about what is coming in the future.
Yeah.
And as you hear on the title, From Waves into Ashes. So I wanted to, this is a segue from the more like we are closer to the surface in Act 1, and now we enter this magma territory. This biome is very. You can quickly see that. Oh, I need to watch where I'm stepping. Watch my steps. Otherwise, I'm gonna get burnt. So it ties in that tone as we were talking about, utilizing some sound design elements and making them musical, morphing them, warping them, making them rhythmic, and doing. So you will hear some stones falling, but they are kind of warped and to have that creepy feel, and you hear the, as you said, swampy thing is meant to be the magma flowing or bubbling. So the idea is to have that kind of on the surface. The first thing you hear is, here's hot stuff. Let's watch out. And then it's to keep it interesting. We weave in this jazzy Diablo sound, and we get to hear the themes that we have passed and the themes that are coming in the future. And yeah, I hope that this is something that's going to be noticed by those who actually. The thing with music is it's kind of boring. That if someone says like, "Oh, I'm listening to the music while I play," then I have failed, kinda, because you should just be enjoying the game and enjoying the moment to moment. So
yeah,
I need to be very careful not to overdo. I'm not doing this kind of opera where you should
exactly
listen to this note by note. But I want to plant the seeds about that. It all is tied together, and it has a story. There is a story being told here.
I'm just thinking about the Tristram now. Is that a bad track then? Because everybody's thinking about Tristram music all the time.
Maybe. But if there is one place where the music, of course, the menu is always a part where it is kind of valid that the music takes some space. I think that beach part also, it makes sense to make it take some space. But then when you and in the boss battles, there is some validity to have it more pronounced. But we need to work smart here. So here's where the more dynamic music system is at work. So if you listen very closely, when you play the game, this isn't from the example you showed now. You can't hear the action drums, the battle drums that is added as a layer when there is these, because there are these enemy spawn events happening. So when those are happening, I time to the next bar in the music that we have the drums starting.
You escalate it a bit.
Yeah, so we do a transition stinger into the drums, and then we work with the threat level kind of algorithm to make it sound fancy.
So the music inside the game is a little bit dynamic then. It's not just one track's playing in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing fancy, but just enough we build tension when you are in more danger, and when you're in less danger, it tones down. So it moves up and it moves down dynamically depending on how many enemies are attacking you at that moment or getting close to you, and yeah, so that's the idea about being a storyteller. I just love that part of implementing it dynamically in that way. So that's one of my kind of big passions, to make the music, implement the music dynamically like that. So it's basically live mixed and DJ'd kind of.
That's nice. One of the things that comes to mind now that we touched a little bit on it, but we haven't really talked about it. So considering with this track where you're trying to have a little bit of what is the past and what is the future, considering that most of these music seems to have gotten created in the order they were basically being played, is that correct assumption as well?
That is
from my part
exactly correct, and it depends on the how we have done the development. That we decided to released the early access with the first act, and so we need music for the first act. Okay, so I create music for the first act. Now we're gonna add a boss battle. Okay, it needs music. Okay, so let's do the music. Now we do the so it's a very, as I said, I implement stuff together with Daniel, and we make it. When that's done, now we can add music. Now we need to add music, basically.
It can't be silent battle, right?
Exactly. You got a week, okay?
Yeah.
And then just put it together, and that's basically how we do it. We're very agile in that way, but it's as I said, oftentimes it's done when it needs to be done.
But on the topic of being agile as well, now with this track specifically, where you took the present and the future as well, it feels like this is a way to just save time, not making like a new ambient or like full original track. Is that also a correct assumption then for this specific ambience?
So sorry, could you state that question one more time? I think my head just took a little nap there. Sorry.
No worries. So with this specific track from Waves into Ashes, yes, you said that you had a little bit of the past tracks, and you also have a little bit about the future tracks that you incorporated into one track here. It feels like this was a lot to just save a little bit time, a little bit bang for the buck in that sense. Is that a correct assessment or statement in that?
Well, I couldn't agree with that, because it's very much the music and the storytelling. I mean, as I talked about, the palette and everything, that is what takes time. So
yes,
the thing with using the themes is more like the part of the how do we tell a story that makes sense, that is tied together. How are you tying things together like that? So, because then, as per usual, I don't copy paste anything from one to the other, because I need to make sure that we're in a different key, and we're in a different kind of modality. So now I need to do a permutation of it, and change
they also need
notes.
to fit together, like working together in one track as well then.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say it unfortunately that doesn't save me any time.
Yep.
But it does give me a framework for how to make sure that everything is that it has a theme, that we're tying the theme as a cohesive image.
Yeah, you have the red thread going through the different areas and sections of the game then.
Exactly. So when you then listen to the OST in its entirety, I hope that you're gonna have these. Oh, I know this. I recognize this. And I recognize this.
I hope so as well.
And you get different kind of lenses on the same musical ideas, but it's expressed very differently.
Yeah, I love that answer. I definitely love that one. That was beautifully laid down on me.
I hope I didn't sound like I took it in a bad way or something. I definitely didn't.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It felt like I was more the bandit in this one, asking the weird question. No, but I love that answer, and I think it gives perspective, and that's what this is all about. But before we're going to the next track, since we didn't listen to the first act's ambience, the Devil on the Reef, could you just give a short little, like an explanation on what you were thinking about in that one, even though we're not listening to it specifically?
Now you're putting me on the spot, because there is a reason why I didn't choose that one. No, but it's speaking about themes. Those are the kind of what that track actually feels to me right now. Is like that was the first. The first prototype, the first mock-up, the first kind of proof of concept about what the palette should be. But so the guitar in that one, which is basically the only instrument doing any melody work, is just me. It's just me noodling around. It's me just improvising over the track.
figuring things out.
Basically. So what you hear there is me just doing improvising solo stuff, and what I'm trying to do now is to save my bum and try to figure out which part of these is a theme that it's gonna end up in the third act.
Oh, interesting. That's a lovely bit.
Yeah. So now you get the scoop, the insider here. How I kind of try to save that and reuse them, because there are things I appreciate with that track, and it does set the tone as I intended, but I didn't have, it is not planned, and the plan isn't ready. As I was saying, this is in the works. I am toying with the idea of that this is going to inform me about what might some of the themes coming later on. Yeah. So it might end up being awesome. a very major. I'm maybe pulling something out there that's going to be some major theme in the third act. So the future will.
We'll see about that then. That was exciting answer. Really, really like that one. So with that, last track of the week then. We've been talking for so long already, but every fun
I have
thing
a lot of words. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to listen in on the last track of the week. And of course, we're saving the best for last. And of course, we're talking about the last boss battle currently available in this early access to this date when we're recording this. So the track name that we're going to listen to for the last one is Mother's Play, and it is the second boss theme. Fading out the last track of the week. This was Mother's Play, Boss 2 theme from Cthulhu's Reach Devil Reef. And this boss battle really did a turn. The track is way more vibing in this sense, reminding me of Denny Baranovsky's work on the game Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is a rhythm game. A well-set melody that really makes me move, at least, from side to side. And considering the game and this track, it does feel a bit off the topic. Maybe from the madness that you have, I don't know. But as I said before, I did not reach this boss, so I would love for you, Pat, to share a little bit more on the thought process of this track and why it might stick out of the rest of the tracks.
Yes, so the key thing here is probably playfulness, because what Mother's Play is getting at is, cover your ears if you don't want the spoilers, but it's quite easy to get spoiled when you watch any of our promotion material. But it's the boss is Mother Hydra, which is a character from the Lovecraft universe, and so Mother Hydra is the idea we had for this boss fight. Like, what if this is kind of the mother cat who is luring the mouse into her little nest, her den, and then have her children actually, because she's the mother of deep ones. So if she has then plays with the food before she's gonna give it to her younglings. So that's what this is getting at, like getting the vibe of this is the mother's play, like she's laughing and just toying with you before she feeds you to her young. So that is the thing I'm getting at, and making it menacing, and at the same time having this this playfulness in with a trying
it's
to
very rhythmical in that sense.
Yes.
Like I stated here, I was really moving from side to side. I was headbanging a bit. I was like, I was like incorporated into the track like the rat then.
Yeah.
It's like the rat piper, right?
Yes, but very much so. It's but in the end, as I was talking, the simple answer is just, well, let's make it hooky in some way, and let's make a hook that you really want to re-listen to, and at the same time. So I guess I'm a bit. This is one of those tracks. So I'm as you say, I get what you're saying about it feeling a bit out of context, maybe. But when it ended up in the game, it feels quite right. So I'm quite confident that it's on the right track, but it maybe needs some remixing in the future. And as I said, I'm planning on releasing the OST for the game, and by then everything's gonna have a retouch up, and let's see if it's just some. I think there are some mixing issues I have with this one, because my time ran out, and I had to have it delivered, and I feel like I am almost there, not really quite, but I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed the I think the thematic ideas is probably in the right kind of, they're getting there, but I think there is some of the Sonic brand isn't. I need to figure that out. So I'm working on it.
But for me, as how I like music and so on, this is way on par with my personal taste in music. So this is one of the reasons why I find this one as one of my favorite tracks of this week, at least.
Happy to hear.
For me, you're definitely onto something, but this is my personal taste. We'll see how I feel when I get to the boss battle, if I'm gonna be in the situation or if I'm just gonna vibe to the music.
when the mother is laughing at you and you're getting eating, you're just bobbing your head.
It's like, I love getting eaten.
Yeah.
Oh wait, fuck. It's like, no, I want to be alive. I want to have the riches and fame. No, but considering all the different tracks that we'll listen to today, of course you have your own personal favorites as well, much as I had ones. Which ones are the ones you're having the most fun creating for this project thus far?
I think the boss music is as close to my happy place you get, but because they come more naturally to me. Those kind of that's what I've been working when I've been working with the band projects that I've been writing for. Those are more along the metal genre stuff, and this I just love to merge those metal-esque parts of me into those more symphonic, and if you think about the game soundtrack as a genre, there is some part of it that is kind of like, well, you are allowed to blend in another way, rather than you don't play by the same rules as, but which is totally nonsense, because if you would make you shouldn't care about genres when you do music projects either. But there is kind of something that happens in my perspective when I do it. Like I can play around more, probably because I own this more, like 100% in how I want to convey it and make stuff. So I think that's what is so freeing with working with these, just basically these storytelling medias. So it would be the same when I've been writing for any short film. It's the same thing there. Like, we don't care about genres. We just care about getting the story more impactful,
conveying the story or conveying a feeling or emotion towards the person intended for it.
Exactly. So now I'm getting off tangent, but the most fun I have is when I get to play with the guitar in these kind of ways where people feel like, this is a game soundtrack. How can I be within that space and make sure that we get the right feel, and it is a moment, a highlight during your journey through our game, during your experience. So as I talk about those contrasts, and these are very much the high points where we are pushing it to 120% in the dynamic and the energy.
Yeah.
So I just love that. I think it's so much fun.
But for you, work a little bit on your original content as well, and also utilizing and working on video game music on the side. Is there any difference when you're in your thought processes when making original music versus video game music?
So I guess the thing with working with lyrics and working instrumentally, I guess that's what I was getting at with the difference. That when you try to support, when you work with a band like Nomadic Citizen, which is one of the projects I have with a couple guys, all we do is try to support the lyrics. It's basically the singer that is gonna be front and center, middle of the mix, higher in volume than everyone else. And then we support that and telling a story around what the lyrics is trying to convey. It's more like poetry in some way. I think that feels more like I'm trying to convey poetry. If you listen to the tracks, you're gonna laugh at me for calling it poetry because it's heavy melodic metal, but it's still.
But I like the intention of it.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm totally honest saying that is how I watch it. I watch the lyrics, and I want to tell the story of this poem that has been written around the lyrics. I just love to write music to lyrics. That is how I love to approach that.
Would you like to have any lyrical work for this game, though?
There will probably be.
Okay.
I am working on a plan to how we will end off this whole soundtrack, but I can't promise anything.
But the intention is there to have something,
intention
hopefully.
To maybe, but I'm not unsure if it's gonna be any lyrics. I don't think it's gonna have its place. It's gonna be too much out of place. But I'm looking into a real high point in ending off this. But we'll see what has gonna happen.
So we're not gonna be taken out of the experience about you're simply the best.
Well, when you put it like that, let's
like the end credits rolls.
Talk about ending on a high note.
Riches. Yeah, exactly.
Gold chains.
Yeah, it looks really gangster.
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh, sorry for that tangent, but it was just too much fun for me. No, but overall, I think we're getting to an end of talking about this game, but I still have two major questions. And these are my usual major questions that I do have for the composers surrounding this. And of course, this is still two questions surrounding in-progress work, of course. And the first one I'm going to ask is, what has been so far on this project the biggest challenge for you?
The biggest challenge? I'm gonna
get in that 8-string.
Exactly. No, I'm gonna keep it to the music, because when I am thinking about this project so holistically. So what has been the biggest challenge? I think it's as always, to keep the red thread nice and cohesive when you don't want to repeat yourself, but you don't want to be out of context either. So you trying to find the different lenses and perspectives that is still you get the right feeling and you get the right. So for example, the From Waves into Ashes, that was very challenging to know how I would approach. I had, for the longest time, I had the piano part, the piano thing, and I had no clue what to pair it up with, and stuff. And I actually, honestly, don't remember how I got out of that funk. But you just get into those kind of funks where you try stuff and nothing feels right, and you just need to keep it on, keep on trying, and then suddenly something you manage to find something. So it's a lot about like trying to finding gold. You are digging and you're digging and you're digging and you're digging, and you never know when you're gonna hit on the thing you're looking for. And that's very much the music creation. You don't know how. I can't say, well, this track is gonna take 2 days to do, or this is gonna take 2 weeks to do. It's something along those lines or more, depending on how things just move along. So I guess that has been the hardest part, to find basically the palette that is that is Cthulhu's Reach, Devil Reef.
Okay.
So now I have more of the palette to pick from going forward. So probably it's going to be easier in a lot of ways, and I have more to work with, and I have deep dived. So my toolbox is filled with tools in a totally different way when I did those other stuff.
Great answer. And on the other like spectrum of this, considering this project and how it moved along, and even something that is up and coming, for example, what is your greatest achievement so far, music-wise, for this project?
That is a difficult question.
That's why I saved the best for last, right?
Yeah, exactly. My greatest achievement.
The 8-string? No.
Always
about the 8-string.
It must be the 8-string. I mean, more strings are better, right? No, but
yeah.
I think that if you look at the constraints that I have kind of put myself in, that I'm working kind of in the box, which is the lingo for just working in the computer and having very limited amount of live instruments, that I probably managed to with a small amount of time that I put into the music, been able to have a soundscape that is quite dynamic, and hopefully the word I want to use is, I hope I get some kind of organicness. But what I have been realizing when analyzing the Diablo 2 soundtrack, for example, is that that soundtrack is very much made the same way as I do this one. He uses a lot of samples, so it's mainly sample stuff, and then he record some stuff that are live. So this is the same the same mold in that way, the same framework or same approach to the palette. So that is something that because it wouldn't sound, it would have a totally different sound if I had the symphonic orchestra playing all the symphonic parts and stuff. It has, as I was talking about, when I tweaked the strings sound, I chose to make it more kind of, let's do an homage towards the Diablo fans, which will feel like, I get the nostalgic feeling, and that is probably what I'm see as what I hope to say being my great achievement, that I managed to make people say like, I got this totally nostalgic feeling. It feels exactly like playing the Diablo and the Doom during the 90s. So that's my goal.
Have you shared the beach ambience to Matt himself yet?
I have not, and I don't know if he would be interested to listen.
Would you dare?
But let's hope I get the chance to shake his hands and we can talk more music in the future. That would be cool.
I definitely hope that's for you. Making so many homages, etc. Not many homages, but making homages.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much for those answers. I don't have any further questions surrounding the soundtrack of this game, Cthulhu's Reach, Devil Reef. Is there anything you feel like we missed on this that you want to note?
I think I have taken up all people's time far too much, but I am very thankful that I got the chance to chat with you about the music. It's been a ton of fun.
It's been an honor.
I just love that you have this podcast that is focusing on video game music, because that is, of course, speaking about passion. That's something I'm so passionate about, and I've been enjoying listening to other of your episodes and hearing fellow game composers speak about their process and how they work and stuff. It's so much fun. So thank you for that, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you so much for the kind words as well. Definitely. No, but moving onward as well, there's a lot of work still needed to be done on this early access game. That's something I bet is high up on this. Is there anything you can say about the project and upcoming things at the moment, or is everything in the dark?
When we talk about Lovecraftian stuff, it's always horrors lurking around the next corner. But what I can say, what I can say is that we are working on presenting a roadmap that is gonna paint out what to come. So that's something you can look forward to. It's gonna be not too far into the future. It's gonna be.
I'm guessing it's gonna be scary for you guys as well, setting up a roadmap that you need to really set down. It's like, yeah, we need to get things done for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's promises. It's great thing to do commitments, because then you really take them more seriously.
Focus.
So you can focus on what you have set out. And right now we have had so much great feedback, and we really love where the game is going. It's, of course, as you said, it's early access, so we're working now on major overhauls about things. I'm very sure it's gonna be something that's gonna make the game a whole lot better, and we're looking forward to release that to our current players. And so if anyone is interested to give us feedback and getting on the early access train, check us out on Steam. Of course, that's always something I always warn that it is early access game. It's very kind of we're not. It's not gonna be a 1.0 release for a time. So know that, but it is an early access journey that we hope you would like to join us on, and it's always valuable with all the feedback to leave to the game.
Yeah, and people can join in on the ride and have their voice spoken, and you guys will listen. Might not change everything just because one person says so, of course,
no,
because you're still following a roadmap, etc.
We read all the feedback.
Exactly, because it's valuable. It's very valuable.
Very valuable.
And it's valuable for people as well. I mean, usually through early access, the games are cheaper. So get them now and just sit on them if something, then support the studio. So, but yeah. Is there anything else? Like if somebody want to get in contact with you or the studio to talk a little bit more about the game or the music, etc., is there any way for them to contact you?
Yeah, I'm always open to talk to people about future projects or anything. So you can, if you want to read more, get in contact with me, easiest is to go to my website, massfirelab.com. Massfire, like an MASS and fire. And if you want to know more about if you want to get into contact with the studio, it's called The Fine Arc. Arc as in a story arc, so ARC. And we have a website, thefinearc.com, which is kind of out of date, but it works because you get a link to the Twitter feed, which we don't. We kind of left the X train for some while ago. It doesn't feel like we have our audience there and our players there, and we focus more about speaking to them through Discord and we being more intimate in that way. We love that to speak to people. So please join that Discord. You can find that on the Steam page. So I guess what I would suggest is wishlist the game on Steam. It's if you want to follow how the development is going, or join the Early Access train if you want to buy it. There is a link. There is a link to Discord as well on the Steam page. So
awesome. And of course, everybody doesn't need to note everything down. All these links and everything will be available in the episode description as well. So just check those out and get easy access to everything. We will put the Discord as well, so people don't need to click on link to link.
Perfect.
So that will be awesome. No, but that is everything. Unless you miss something else you wanna note down. Or are we ready to close down?
I just want to send a final thanks to everyone who has listened, and to you, Chris, for hosting me. Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been your time to shine and be in the spotlight. So yeah, with that said, thank you so much for joining in, Per. It's been an honor. And for people who are listening in on this episode and like this episode and want to get to listen to more episodes just like this one, you find other episodes of the Gameable Audio on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Pocket Cast. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can also listen in on the episodes. Just give us a subscribe would be very helpful. We're still growing that channel, or I'm still trying to grow that channel. And feel free to comment and follow on one of our social medias, or both. I'm always happy to get more people to talk to. Either you find it on either Facebook or on Instagram. Just search for Gameable Audio and you'll find us there. And if you want to support this podcast financially, then you can think about becoming a Patreon backer. And if you want to get some more value out of it, well, we usually with these episodes, I can get giveaways and so on, and everything will just be given away to the Patreon backers as well. So any type of tier will be able and liable for any sort of raffle that goes out. You will also have the exclusive Gameable spin-off over on Patreon as well. And access to the Discord and everything to get specific tiers, etc. I don't think I'm missing anything else because I have not noted that down, so it can't be important. Our current awesome backers that we do have today over on Patreon is Daniel Onemark, Mike Björkholm, Lars Schenström, Titte Schenström, Kevin Wikström, Sandris Wikström, and Mats El Kebabo Tapper Holmqvist. And last but not least, Alexander Haltén. And as I said, links to everything where you can support the studio, the Fine Arc, but also Per in this case with the music and so on. You'll find those over on the episode description. And the next episode theme, I'm going to be alone again, not a guested episode. But Per, do you know of Bomberman?
Yeah, I do know about Bomberman. I played a lot of Game Boy.
You do know about?
Yeah.
Awesome. And in EU, or in Europe, like the full name is, we didn't really get Bomberman on Game Boy. It was Dino Blaster or something like that, right?
Maybe
Dyna Blaster, if I remember correctly, because it wasn't Bomberman per se, because Bomberman was really problematic in the beginning.
So probably was that one.
Yeah, could be. No, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about Bomberman, where he comes from and kind of how he developed over time. It's going to be super interesting because I love Super Bomberman games on the Super Nintendo myself. I grew up playing the second game and I love the story on that one as well with the single-player campaign. But of course, everybody loves bombing each other. Woohoo! No. And as always, the podcast theme music was, as always, composed by the amazing Thor Myrdal. And I am your host, Kristoffer Schenström. This was episode 54 on Cthulhu's Devil Reef, together with the amazing Per Fransson. Yet again, thank you so much for coming in. It's been an honor. And for everybody else who signs off this with this, thank you so much for listening in. Thank you so much for sharing and caring the podcast and everything. And with that said, take care, everybody. And see you guys next time.
Bye.